All right, so what time is it? We will call the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Good evening, everybody. We actually have planned on the agenda a non-public session for the first half an hour. And so I promise we will not start public comments before 7:30. Potentially it might be a little bit later, but that's my goal, is to at least definitely by 7:30, no earlier than 7:30. So with that, we are going to go into non-public session under RSA 91A32C, the discussion regarding technology support. And so
is Marion staying on?
Marion's staying on, and Janet will stay on, and Sarah will stay on. So I will ask, do I put people in the waiting room?
Put them in the rain.
Oh, Lord. I'm gonna figure this out. Hopefully I don't kick people out.
You can do this. I mean, you can ask everybody to please, sign off, but then they'd have to sign back on again. So if you could move them into the waiting room, that's better.
Okay, move. Enable waiting room. How do I move move people?
So you should be able to like hover over the participants and sort of right click to move to waiting room.
Okay,
I
Carrie,
couldn't
you're
do it.
first.
I'm not the host.
That's not working. Does anybody else know how to do this? Want to come and help?
I've never done it, but I can try.
Oh, here. Put
Okay.
in waiting room. Okay. I got it. I got it.
Do I just have to stand here and watch you? do
Apparently,
it?
see, it helped.
It's called the generals.
Okay, Glenn Hayes. Janet. In waiting room. Man, this is going to take me a little bit. I'm sorry. Jen. Oh, that was a motion to go into non-public by. Hold on one second.
Roger, are you gonna take non-public notes? I think you should. Very, very good idea.
All right, we have myself, we have Sarah, we have Elizabeth, Hayes, Janet, Jen, Marion, Phil, and Sarah again. Okay, I will stop the recording. Whereas if I find that too, you guys are gonna hate me by the end of this. Where is the recording here? Okay. Stop, pause recording. All right, so I'm resuming recording. So welcome to the public. I want to formally, I guess, I don't know, to start our meeting. So with that, I will open it to public comment. Is there anyone with any public comment? And please limit it to 3 minutes, and please just make sure it stays with the agenda. And anybody who has a public who would like to speak, please say put some of your hand up or put it in the chat. Twenty-five minus board members.
A lot of people are disconnecting. Yeah, I think somebody just emailed the list wondering why they couldn't get into the meeting. So I emailed back and said we were in the public. So I would probably give this a couple of 2 to 5 minutes. You never know. Yeah, a lot of people are connecting to their office. Oh, if the link is the same that's on the agenda. So if you
It is
click
on the
it
agenda.
there-
However, it's not our standard school board meeting link, so that may have caused some problems.
Apparently.
But the correct link was the one straight from the agenda.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's-
So we're still waiting on public comment if anybody has anything. Yes, Amanda, they will be. So I'm waiting if there's, I'll give it another minute for any public comment. All right, so hearing none, I will move to the LEA staff comment. If there's one requested. I saw Tom and I saw Kate. I don't know if,
This is Tom. We do not have a comment tonight. Thank you.
okay, great. So that's moving forward to reports. Board chair report, I just wanted to say a couple of words and introduce Frank Perotti. He started a week ago as our interim superintendent. He hit the ground running day one and has been working, I think, almost every day. He comes in, he's also not an interim, but part-time superintendent in Croydon as well, and has previously served as superintendent down in Plainfield as well and worked in Vermont. So welcome. The other thing that I wanted to announce, because at our last board meeting, there was not many people and it was a last minute addition. Elise sent out an email to everybody informing them that March 8th, which is the school town meeting day, will be switched to an in-service day. So there will be no school for students on March 8th, and April 1st, there will be school. So I just wanted to make sure that gets noted because there's a whole lot more people listening today. That's it from me. Superintendent report.
So I did actually post a report late this afternoon into documents, but pretty short. Basically, that I spent the first day or two just trying to meet people and talk with people. Spent pretty much a half a day here in this building, just getting familiar with what the issues are, what people are thinking about, what their feelings are about those things, and just trying to get caught up. Reviewing things like the budget and CBA and all those things that the superintendent needs to be familiar with. I'm impressed with people. People are very committed to the students here in the school. The atmosphere is good. I think folks here, you should be very proud. They seem to put kids first, and that's a really nice thing to have. We talked about, it's funny, we've been talking about Power School because we did spend some time on that, trying to solve that problem with Power School. And maybe it's not quite solved yet, so we'll keep working on that and see where that goes. But yeah, I mentioned in my report that I think part of the issue with Power School stems back to process. And my suggestion to you, I will not be here forever, so my suggestion to you is to be really clear that if you are going to go down the road with a new initiative or a new person or any kind of major purchase, that it's thought out, it's identified, it's included in a budget, and people know where and how and when it's going to be paid for, so you don't run into the kind of confusion that you're experiencing, which raises, causes stress and frustration and things that get difficult to deal with. So I think some of that is probably caused by the administrative change that's been going on, that has been inconsistent and that and probably confusing, and that makes things a little bit difficult. But you're on the right path to work that out. I think hiring a part-time superintendent to be superintendent and a full-time principal to be principal is the right thing to do, and that will bring some stability back, and I think folks will start to feel a lot better about that. The principal and superintendent search committees, both of those met. I sit on both to assist with those. All of the applicants that have been turned in have been blinded, the applications, people are reviewing them. And we have meetings set into the future and hope to do interviews in the very end of February and the first week in March at the moment. So those committees are well organized. Nikki is chairing and running the principal search, and Tom is doing the superintendent search. Both very good administrators. Tom's an administrator, but he's very talented and has really good organizational skills. So I think that should go smooth. And the other thing we've been spending time on and working on that's very specific is working on with the finance committee on the budget presentation. And Elizabeth and Jenna put a lot of time and effort in that. So we met previous to this meeting and making progress. That's kind of it. But yeah, you're right. I've been on board with something every day.
Yep.
But when you're a shared superintendent between districts, it's kind of an understanding that I may be sitting here, but something that may happen in another place that I have to attend to. So I may take care of it right from here, or I may have to leave and come back or whatever. But it's 24/7, no matter what. I'm always available.
Thank you and welcome.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be here. Very pleased to be able to help out.
Thank you. Elise, do you have a principal's report?
Just a short one. We have winter carnival in the middle school tomorrow, which is usually traditionally the last day before winter break. And middle school kids do a lot of fun competition. And on March 8th in service, we'll be using some of that time for teachers will be working on their research and inquiry-based learning, sharing and looking at their goals in that area. We'll be analyzing a second round of K-8 writing samples. We took a sample at the beginning of the year and just finishing up a sample now, and looking at our trends in our writing, and we'll be looking at the track my progress data. And then we're hoping that our first set of report cards with our school will be going out March 14th, and conferences will be the week of March 14th and March 18th, and signups and information from teachers will be going out as soon as we get back from break, so parents can sign up for conferences.
Great, thank you. A faculty or staff report? I don't know if there's a staff member. There isn't one. I don't see anybody unmuting. Okay, and financial report. Janet, are you still on?
I am.
Okay, good.
Okay, so I dropped my information into the board folder there, or for the agenda with my reports in it, but I guess I'd start with the teacher stipend report. So this runs through February 16th, which was yesterday. So far to date, we have used 170.25 hours for the student support team, the scheduling and the transportation, with a total cost of $7,917.13.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, I can hardly hear you though.
Well, maybe Joel, you can repeat.
Yep,
it.
I can repeat.
So in terms of our like stipends to teachers, I don't know what the transportation stipend is for, but the stipends to teachers, we had budgeted $8,600. Are we gonna be over $8,600?
Did you hear that, Janet?
Yes, so I would say at this point, yes, because every payroll, if you look at the report, so like on February 11th payroll, there was only one person that participated, and that was for a total payroll cost of $318. So I would say yes. because that was just 1 2-week period.
Okay, I can go through and figure it out. I mean, I'll just try to figure out what the delta is.
So we're averaging anywhere, I don't know, it's hard, it varies, the hours vary, but it looks like it's approximately 7 or 8 hours a pay period. Some are more, I'm sure, because it's probably has to do with, you know, what they're working with at that time. I'm sure some weeks or pay periods have that they have to spend more time doing it. But I would say yes, that you'll be over. Do you want me to try to figure something out or come up with an average for you?
No, that's okay. I can figure it out, and I can see where the vacations are.
Can I share a little bit? It's not that the stipends really aren't being used for transportation. That was only to figure out bus issues at the beginning of the year.
Oh, right, for Connie.
Scheduling.
Yeah. That makes
Scheduling
sense.
is, if we have a glitch, there'll be probably more scheduling happening as we prepare for next year. But mainly the stipends are going to run the student
Right.
support
SST.
team meetings, which we have a number this year that we're seeing more of the fallout of COVID and the other stressors in the school. So that's hard to predict. It's not like a regular meeting, but it's as student needs arise and meeting with parents and teachers and getting a plan made to help kids out.
Okay.
Just trying to
Does
figure
that
this out on
fall
like a
follow?
month, like,
Understand.
Hmm?
Pre-referral for gen ed, it's like tier 2.
So it's not something that could be used as part of the sped cost.
No.
I was just thinking.
Elizabeth just asked Mickey if this could be attributed to the sped costs, which Mickey said no. I don't know if it was loud enough for people to hear. I'm just repeating. it.
Actually, this cost goes to admin.
So this is the admin line. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then my revenue report. So in the general fund, for revenue at this point is, we're have unanticipated revenue of approximately 38,480. And that is due 99% to an individual tuition line. In food service, the revenue that's shown here brings us through December. So we haven't received our January revenue yet, but you can see, I mean, I don't know if you look at the other reports that I've done, but I projected through the end of January in this column to try to compensate. But we get good revenue from the seamless summer option. We're ranging a short month, we get approximately $8,000. And in a larger month, we are looking at $10,000 to $11,000 with more days. It depends on the number of days and the number of meals served. So that's, of course, what everything's based on. But and then on the grant, we still have a lot of grants that I cannot put claims to because they're in various states of approval. At this point, our IDA preschool revenue, I've got claims prepared and journal entries done for approximately $40,000 of revenue. We've received to date 23,000. But we do have a little bit more. We probably have another $15,000 in the IDAB grant that we'll be able to reach out and get this year. So our total grants are up to about 111,100. I'm still was conservative on the ESSERS 3 grant because none of it has been approved yet. So I'm hoping that Mickey said today that it's gone back into the state and hopefully that will take only a few days to turn around, which would be great because then I can go back to the beginning of the year and begin to put in the claims for the contract cleaning and our consulting fees. So it'd be great to have that revenue come in because right now the general fund is carrying all of that as far as cash flow is concerned. So it'd be good to have the revenue come in for that. The ADS expenditure report, I don't know if, hopefully everybody got that. That is our year-to-date actuals on the expenditure side. And in the general fund, right now, prior to grants, before the grant section, right after food service, we have a $76,000 positive balance. Which that actually doesn't even look correct. We're gonna have to look at that. So the adopted. All right, I'm gonna have to look at that. But anyway, prior to food service, we're looking at a general fund budget. We're under budget 58,472. But remember that we're still pretty early in the year and we get a lot of stuff that doesn't have purchase orders on a monthly basis. But and then our expenditure reports, my expenditure reports, our high school numbers have changed. So Elizabeth, you're going to want to know that for your report. So far now we have a deficit in high school instruction of 110,390. And that has a direct impact on what we're going to pull from high school trusts. So overall, after food service, a projected deficit of $177,864. If we carry that down and look at the post-retirement benefit trusts coming in at 36,000, the high school trust at 110,390, and maintenance building trust of 33,000. That gives us 179,390 in revenue, which gives us a general fund projected balance of $1,525. This, of course, is still heavily encumbered using the tool that says that we're going to spend the items that we have in the budget, except for the things that I know we're not going to spend. So it makes an assumption that we're spending everything, and then it shows everything that we're over.
So Janet, can I ask a question?
Yep, I can hear you a little bit.
Okay, well, Yola will translate. On the, say, the sped line and the building to ground line where we overexpended per se, we could potentially pull some funds from those trusts, correct?
Did you hear that?
So I think so. So we had already talked about through the year of taking the 33,000 from trust to help offset that $70,000 deficit. The hard part is that $70,000 deficit keeps growing.
But we do have leeway there. That's what Elizabeth is asking.
Yeah, and the clarification is that unless we're overspent in the total sped budget, then we can't access. the
Right, so
trust.
this line you have to.
So right now,
combine it
we're
with it.
almost balanced out
Oh,
because the high
because of the high
school and the
school.
elementary.
I got it, yeah, so we don't have that, really, yeah. That's just high school stuff, got it, yeah.
All right. All right, next thing on our agenda, I think that was it, right?
Yeah, I'm going to try to come across the street. Can somebody open the door or shove the thing in the door? Because Jen has my key.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so moving on to our business. First item, yeah. So first item on our agenda, we have Bill Waste and Elizabeth here to talk about school district meeting. And I will try, I'm gonna maybe I'll move closer. Maybe that'll help everybody. And the reason why we don't have the owl here is because Sarah's not here.
Oh, come on, the owl is in the closet.
All right, I'm sitting in
I
the middle
didn't
of
take
the
it with
room.
me on vacation.
I'm sitting in the middle of the room, so hopefully that's better.
I can just unmute.
You can unmute, go ahead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, it's old school. All right. So we have Bill Waste here,
Hi, everybody.
who you can't see because we don't have the owl with us. Here we go. There's Bill. Why don't we start by having Bill talk about, from his perspective, he is the moderator for our district meeting, sort of the process that we're to follow. I know we've done this before, but it's always good to run through it again. And so I have him on the.
This is my annual visit as we look ahead to that Thursday night in March, the whole school meeting. Obviously, the last year was radically different as voting and the both town and school district meetings were separated until such time as the deliberative sessions for each side could be held outdoors, which we did. This year, a lot of those emergency declarations are no longer in play, which doesn't give us much leeway as to when we can schedule things. And so we were looking to go forward on a regular schedule. Now, normally, my primary focus when coming in to this scheduling session is just to get a sense as to who I might look to as various articles are brought forward. But I think a few minutes should be spent on talking about the physical structure of the meeting. And also, I'm happy to share and act as a liaison for go on the Tuesday following for town meeting. We had a planning session last night where we laid out a draft plan of what's looking to happen there. And let me take just a couple of minutes on that first. The challenge for town meeting is, of course, the fact that we have both the ballot voting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which usually takes place in one portion of the community, and a setup for the deliberative session, the business meeting from 9 a.m. on, which at this time takes up a significant majority. The feeling was that because of the need for appropriate social distancing, they're going to split those two functions out and have the balloting going on in the cafeteria, and only the business meeting happening in the gym, and that way being able to use much more of the gym space and separate out. So it's requiring some adjustments there. Additional ballot clerks are going to be necessary. And frankly, I'm going to oversee, as assistant moderator for the town, the balloting during the business session for those people that may go through while the business session is in play. We're hoping that we can coordinate in terms of structural setup. It's very much appreciated that you're switching your in-service day so that it expands the available and makes the cafeteria space available, frankly, for doing that. And that's very much appreciated. One of the questions that I wanted to bring forward was the issue surrounding masking. As it came up in our discussions last night, one of the things that we do not want to do in our planning is to do anything that goes counter to what the normal process and procedures are here for the school. We feel it might undermine what you're doing in terms of regular school functions if we did something different for these meetings. And so that's, a key question, as this itself is in a time of flux. And so one of the things that I would ask is for a clear definition of what the current policy is. Is that everyone in the building is masked all the time?
Yeah.
Okay, then I believe that's what we would hold to, and I would think we would do the same thing for the district meeting as basic criteria. Of course, you do run into instances where there are people who, for medical reasons or whatever, may not be able to wear a mask. The thinking for the town meeting is to create an isolated area, probably a set of bleachers that can be further removed from the spread out of chairs on the floor of the gym community area, and that people would be restricted there, as opposed to trying to create a separate classroom or something like that. And again, that's a subject to be talked about here in terms of the physical layout for the school district meeting. Beyond that, there will be variations in flow patterns as it comes to town meeting day. If you're in just the ballot vote, you'd come to the lobby, be directed down to the cafeteria, go through that process, literally go out of the building and come back on the outside path to the lobby if you were then going to come into the deliberative session, so that we do not have bifolding traffic. The other things is that are changes there that have some application for the beginning of the school district meeting is dispensing with all but the most necessary introductory pieces. So for example, there will not be a presentation of Citizen of the Year. There will not be presentations from an informational standpoint for anything that might be going on. We would allow passive displays, as is sometimes done by organizations or elements of the town looking to provide information on things, but not have any presentations given. Basic thought is, and I think the same applies to the school district meeting, is to do everything we can to keep the meeting as brief as possible, so that we restrict the amount of time we have a significant group of people in close quarters indoors. And so I would make sure that my instructions for the beginning of the meeting are as succinct as they can be, and that we move as quickly as possible to the meeting itself. So that's a little bit of background in terms of what's going to be happening in and around the meeting by Zoom as it was last year. So there will be no physical presence that pre-meeting Tuesday. Then go off on the Thursday, and town meeting and voting follows the Tuesday after that.
So Bill, if I hear correctly, you know, as we're trying to put together the presentation and sort of, you know, some introductory remarks, sort of having maybe a written document that covers a lot of the things, so we can just maybe quick summary and, you know, because we're going to have some, you know, we're thinking about layout now, but anything that we can sort of have a document that people could read.
I think that would be key. I think it would be helpful. I think the thing to do is to prepare something like that and use something like that, so you then don't read from it in your presentation, that you augment, you highlight, you supplement, but in the interest both of not insulting people's intelligence as well as brevity, we don't hand something out and then proceed to read through it.
No, I understand.
Thoughts from the board in terms of physical layout. The idea of taking the entire floor space within the area, so that we set up chairs in no more than groups of 2, in case 2 people from the same family might come to attend, and we look to apply social distancing rules and that. And I have not in the past been as involved with the physical layout and structure of the meeting. So I don't know who to best coordinate with in terms of how that gets done, how the sound system gets set up, and all that kind of stuff. I've in the past relied upon the school to do that. So.
Well, tomorrow I'm meeting with Kevin Peterson, and I think.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit later, and we'll look at.
8:30 or so tomorrow morning. Right. Again, we're going to be kind of a test case in some respects of how this configuration may work out in advance of the town meeting. But again, I think it's a year of closer coordination than we've typically done in the past.
And there's no remote. Anybody that participates has to be in person this year.
That is the case. Yes.
That makes it easier in some.
It does. It makes it limiting in other ways. You know, and we still haven't, and when I say we, I'm thinking about literally up to the state level, and the rules and regulations that surround public meetings are still trying to work out how a hybrid system might work, but it's not in place yet.
How about, has the town thought about if somebody has a compromised health issue or what have you, and feels, you know, wants to participate, recognizes they have to come? Did you talk about that at all? I'm just
only in anticipating that some level, you know, it becomes very case specific. You know, if it's somebody that is comfortable by extra distance and things like that, the thought of setting up a more isolated area off to the side for people who would be unmasked for whatever reason. If it's somebody who truly is like immunocompromised and things like that, there unfortunately has not been, you know, a setting up of a remote connection. That's something that could still be considered, but it's not there. And unfortunately, the voting structure isn't there. Somebody who would come in remotely would be an observer only.
Be an observer only, correct.
Just doing it. Remotely can talk, can listen. Right, right.
Well, I guess the question is, do you offer that so that people can hear at least what it is, even if they can't vote on it?
I think that's something we'll talk about tomorrow morning
Okay.
and take a look at the physical requirements for something like that and see what we might come up with. So that's kind of where things are at. And I just also was asked to extend from the town the appreciation of the cooperation and support of the school in pulling this together. Obviously, it's been a central meeting place for both town and school for all of these years. Extended out a little bit more this time because of the COVID effect. But with cooperation and support of each other, we think we can set it up so that I don't know that I can say 100% of the people, but certainly a vast majority will feel that they have access, they have ability to observe and participate and be involved with it. So having said that, I do come to my question regarding the warrant. And that is, I saw that it was on one page. That was nice. But as my past experience has shown, it only has to be one article to make things go very long. I will endeavor to do my best to make sure that, again, while granting everybody the right to listen and to speak and be heard, we'll do our best to try to move things along.
So I do have a question on
Yeah.
that. So as we're working on the first rough first draft,
Right.
we were looking at talking about buildings and grounds as part of it, which would reference the thinking behind the warrant
Yep.
article. Because don't you usually, we move Article 2 and then we do the presentation first, then we
Correct.
move.
It's been traditional since the presentations have been done.
So we can do that because we aren't moving any articles. We do the
Correct.
presentation first. So talking about the warrant is not an issue. Okay.
It has worked well. I think, trying to remember. It's been quite a while since this was brought into play, but his work wonderfully to precede the discussion of specific articles, a presentation of some type that provides that background things in detail. And in many instances, it has resolved questions before they even come up, which has been wonderful. But what we followed is to open the meeting, recognize whoever's going to take the lead on that, and just reference the fact that this is the way we've been doing things now for decades, and have found great benefit from it. And give the floor to the presentation. And that can be centered on one person, or it can be passed around to different members of the board and administrators or whoever is necessary to speaking of people speaking, the only other thing that I need to know in terms of the opening of the meeting is, are there going to be people who are registered voters and need to be approved without vote at the meeting? And I assume you will be. Is there anybody else?
Right for me? I don't know. Well, maybe just write Elise in case she comes. Elise Coxall and Nikki McGee.
Well, Mickey's local, isn't she?
No.
No, she's not either.
She's not here, but I don't think she lives in mine.
Okay.
Okay, I'll double check to make sure I got the right people. And that's never been an issue before, but it allows people just to speak to issues if they have the knowledge that's helpful.
Would you like us to assign the different articles at this point?
If
or-
you are to the point where you know that somebody is in a position to take the lead on an article, you can do that. If some of them are pro forma, it really doesn't matter. It is customary, it's not required, but it's customary that the person who moves an article is granted the first right to speak to it. So that is one of the reasons why, some pre-identification can happen. You've got somebody who is your expert on the article itself and can take that position. So can do that tonight, or can do that subsequently with an email or whatever works for you.
We could send you an email.
Yeah.
That would work.
Okay,
That would fine tune it. We don't need to keep it here.
all right.
Excellent.
And it's pretty much it from my experience. As I said, it will be a little different, but what these past 2 years hasn't been a little different. Okay, then,
Thank you.
thank you much.
Thank you
And
for coming and waiting.
sure, not a problem. Well, I didn't have to wait that long. And good luck with well, I don't know what the issues are, but as a former tech director for Lebanon, what some of the complications can be. Especially when I hear the word power school.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right. Awesome. All right. Are you on? Oh, Mickey was on. It's echoing this way. So we just had a first meeting tonight to talk about the presentation with Frank, Jen, Phil, and I. And it's not really in any position to present yet. Conceptually, Yola agrees, I think, in our back and forth, that sharing the presentation as we've done in the past makes sense. Obviously, Yola would introduce the presentation to us and make some broad remarks. We thought there would be a section on COVID, just that, we're still in that mode. We don't have some of the same supports in grant funding that we had in prior years, but we do have ESSERs, and just basically to also thank the COVID committee. And one of the thoughts I had was, I heard a piece on Vermont Public Radio where they were interviewing kids and sort of their life in COVID. It might be fun to have kids share their thoughts a little bit and share those as part of that too, just to try to put some human touch to it. I had put a question mark. I thought maybe Vince, you might do that section.
In keeping with what my story was last year.
There's a theme. Yeah.
I represent the children of the town of Lyme.
You do. And then obviously for the actual budget numbers, I can do it, or Frank can do it, or we can do it together. Then I was going to break out the section on buildings and maintenance to sort of, we were thinking about just sort of the fact that, we've have some deferred maintenance that we looked at doing a 5-year plan and being more strategic about how we expend those costs, present the plan. Janet had a copy of that, which was so exciting. So we can sort of incorporate that from what was done earlier and to address the warrant article, obviously. And Phil has done a lot of the communication with Doug over the year. And so I thought maybe Phil might do that section if you're willing. And then Hayes, you did the trust last year, so I thought that might be a good area for you, if you're willing.
Sure, I can look at that. I have pretty booked schedule between now and that meeting, so
But we'll have a whole, it will be all
On the slide.
on a slide for you, and I can send it ahead, and if there's questions and comments, we can do it. And then obviously sort of the cost per pupil and sort of how we're faring in educational outcomes. That we've got a lot of slides. Mickey's done some great slides. Jen's done some great slides. We haven't even gotten to that. We're going to have to cull it and shorten it a little, but there's a lot of really great data to talk about sort of how we're faring in that regard and our taxes. And, we're sort of smack dab in the average, which is good to see, but we're above average in our test scores and things like that. But we're just working on that. And then obviously Yola would then come back in and wrap it up and then move it on to ask for the first article, and we'll go through and we can assign folks for that. But we were just beginning to go through a lot of the particulars to this. So one of the things that will be important for anyone who can is we probably do need to meet because this is our presentation. But next or early before Thursday, March 4th.
Earlier than that, like it would be ideal if we could do it next week. And so one thing that I would do is so Elizabeth has a lot of quantitative data presented sort of qualitatively on slides. And so my plan is to take that and sort of create an image, right? Some kind of picture, like a pie graph or whatever. Like whatever it is, I need to think about it and sort of present and try to see if we can figure out in terms of like the increase to the budget this year, of that increase, what proportion is being driven by uncontrollable costs and what proportion is being driven by controllable costs. So I didn't think about the math on that, but that should be something we can figure out.
Well, we still got to get some numbers too. We don't have all the numbers yet.
Yeah, so Wednesday and Thursday night, I'm busy from 6 until at least 7:30, maybe 8, but probably 7:30 is safe. So I could easily Zoom. Or come here if it's not till 8.
We do have Tuesday night's meeting on the books currently.
Not going to be ready by then.
If we're not ready, then that's okay too. I just wanted to point out, we forgot Sarah was.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I did forget Sarah. I'm not being, you're right. I did. It's food services here. And we have it actually, it's an area that we're working hard on because the revenue side is not matching up with our expenditure side. And so we're going to have to look at some
creative solution.
We need to create a solution to not having to bump that up because it's a $70,000 cost, potential cost to us if we don't do something different, given the revenue side.
Maybe for next week, I can send out a doodle as to.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. And anything later, towards the later, just because we need enough time to. And Janet's got to do some math and all that stuff. And she's off tomorrow, and she should be. And Monday's a holiday, so.
Yeah, I can work it on. I can start on Saturday, and
we can
make
it look prettier than what I am.
What to do, and then the actual numbers can then go in. So that would save some time.
Yep. And I can, people connect me into them after the day.
Yeah, it won't take too long. So. All right.
So we have the skeleton in place, but not all the pieces. But we're getting there.
Thank you for the date on the.
I'm going to send a doodle out for next week to when everybody can meet, because everybody has to.
And I may, once I know that, I may do a doodle for another work session. I mean, I may try to get time for another finance committee session so that we can come back with all the pieces and all that good stuff. So.
All right. Next item on the agenda, do I have a motion for the on-call substitute for this month?
Hey, Yola, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, you got to take it back.
Okay, sorry, I will take it
Sorry,
back.
Sarah. And sorry about leaving you out, Sarah. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
All right, I'm back. So
I blocked it.
your volume too.
I turned it off. I turned it off.
Does somebody else have speaker volume
I'm
on?
mute. I'm totally on mute. Everything.
Mute and the speaker. Somebody else is on? Okay, we're better now.
Okay.
Okay, so I asked for a motion for an on-call substitute. Boylston moved it. A second. Burke, any conversation? All in favor?
I,
Aye. Sarah? Are
Yeah, I'm
you
trying to
in?
figure out how to raise my hand digitally, but I'm saying aye. so-
Perfect. So that passes. Next item is progress on the hiring process. And Frank, you mentioned it in part of your superintendent's report. I think there's more people that have come on. So it would be great if you could repeat it briefly. That's okay.
Sure. I'll just drop my mask to speak.
Yeah.
Get this helps a little bit. So in both searches, both committees have met. I think there are 13 applicants at the moment for the principal's position. They've all been blinded, and people on the committee have started to review them. We do have meetings scheduled to go over them once we have selected the top 3 or 4. And we've also selected dates to set up interviews for those folks, and a process where they will, candidates would be coming to this, visiting the school, have a chance to meet staff, have a chance to meet community and parents, and then eventually a final interview with the board for those who come to the top. The same with the superintendent search. On the principal search, Mickey McGee is the person who was elected to chair that and keep it organized and everybody on task. In the superintendent search, Tom Harkin has been elected as chair of that group. And we are in the same process and making the same progress. There are 3 candidates currently in the superintendent pool. So both committees met. I felt very good about both of them. People are committed to the task. They're committed to coming to meetings and fully participating. So it should be fairly dynamic, and we hope to move it along fairly quickly. So.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, next item of discussion is COVID and masking in school. As it's in our documents, there were 2 letters, one from a parent and one from a staff member, asking us to revisit the masking protocols in school. For the parent one, I actually did respond, which I did include in that. And I did misspeak. I did look back. So currently we have masks required all the time, except for when they're eating, for kids, when kids are eating. And so I did reference that the COVID committee is that they talk about private things and whatnot. I did go back in looking at how we formed the COVID committee, and it's actually an advisory committee, not to the board, but to the superintendent or the district administrator when it first was developed. And so for that reason, it actually does not fall under board policy with sharing minutes and sharing and public participation. That said, the COVID committee has continued to maintain the recommendation that we continue masking as per protocol, as per the guidelines of the CDC and the DHHS in New Hampshire. And so that has been consistent. I know there is still the SASS testing that happened today. It happens every Thursday for those students who are wanting it, or families who are willing it and wanting to do it. I wanted to ask Frank if there's any further discussion or comments that you had about the masking in particular?
I'm very comfortable following the committee's recommendations and CDC guidelines, and I think you've done a very good job from what I can see. It's been very inclusive of people's opinions, and you've got, some good people making those recommendations, so I'm comfortable. I also think that we're looking at some changes in CDC guidelines fairly quickly and fairly soon, and so we may have some changes down the road, before too long. So
Any board,
be patient, stay the course. That's you've done a good job. Your numbers have been low. Your attendance has been excellent. So I think you're in the right place.
That's a motion that authorizes the president to advise on CDC, HHS. and, so it covers you because you depend on CDC, which you didn't.
Could you repeat that, Yola?
so in Plainfield, the superintendent has been asked to monitor the recommendations and the changes in the recommendations and been authorized to change the protocols so that does not need to be a special meeting called. Is there any other board members that wanted to say anything? I mean, I think we all recognize that this has not been easy for either staff or for students. I think it is especially for special ed students that there are certain disabilities that are more impacted and more difficult to deal with wearing masks. And I think that that's a huge challenge that I'm sure is not been easy for Mickey and her team. And I commend them for doing what they've been doing.
I mean, it would be valuable though, you'll have to see what the sense of the board on this is, in my opinion, because like one thing that it seems that we have done, we always says, oh, we'll see what the CDC says, right? But we're not a medical institution, we're an educational institution. And I do take to heart the fact that it probably is impacting students' ability to learn, right? That's the responsibility we have here. So, my opinion, I mean, my opinion, I think we have a mostly vaccinated population here. And I think that nobody's been heavily affected yet, right? And we haven't seen that happen. I wonder if anyone else feels that the masking is justifying, right? The means are justifying the educational impact we're taking. And I place that to the rest of the board, right? Like, how do others feel? This isn't a vote.
Anyone else want to pitch in?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I don't know that I see or that I've at least borne witness to, at least anybody that I know, seeing that their education or their, ability to be educated has been impacted. I think maybe there is some social stuff, having to sit and eat lunch and not speak is, I think that's unusual. I don't know that, what we didn't know in 2020 versus what we know today, like, I'm just not sure that based on what we know today, is it worth it to continue to put our kids through this? For one thing, I think everybody who's inside this school can be vaccinated. If they're choosing not to be vaccinated, or their parents are choosing not to vaccinate them, we can't just continue to live like this forever because some people aren't vaccinated. I mean, I have had the thought of just keeping the masks on through flu season because why not? And or saying, well, first of all, I think reflexing to DHHS guidance makes sense. I don't want to defy with DHHS. If they say they think kids in school should have masks on, that I'm fine to keep the masks on. My sense is that guidance is going to change probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. they're just waiting for the Omicron numbers to really come down. What happens after that? Like, I would like to follow their guidance in the case that we need to reflex back, then we have, then we can say, like, okay, we're gonna follow DHH's guidance because we're not a medical body and we don't know what's going on, right? And so it gives us that, like, I guess, box to stand on. But I mean, I think it would, another tack that we could take is to say, like, probably within the next month, the masks are coming off. So if you or your child hasn't been vaccinated yet, there's no time like tomorrow to do that.
Phil, do you have any thoughts? I'm picking on people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're moving into a different place. And I think this is a conversation that we should have with the COVID committee, and especially Katie as the nurse and spokesperson for that committee.
Hayes, any thoughts?
I don't really see that being in a school institution and not a medical facility makes a big difference. I think that following the New Hampshire Department of Human Services guidelines is a responsible thing to do. I think it's going to be changing soon. I agree. And it will ride that wave. Going against that, I think, could potentially cause more concerns and issues than riding on.
Sarah, do you have anything to add?
I think it's difficult for boards to make these decisions. I guess I've been in the school, as a substitute, and I have seen students talking during lunch. So if that's the inconvenience that people are concerned about, I'm a little bit confused about that. But that's not every classroom. So, if I'm only in a few, I can't possibly know what's happening everywhere. I think I've always appreciated that we do have a COVID committee, and that as a school, we've kept our numbers quite low. And I agree with what other folks are saying. Like, I think if I were a betting woman, I think change is coming soon. I feel like it's right around the corner. And I think it's prudent to give it a few more weeks and see what happens.
Elizabeth, anything more?
I kind of fall in Hayes' camp. I think following the guidelines of the CDC and the New Hampshire guidelines.
DHHS.
And I think the COVID committee has done a great job, and I'm not the expert on these health issues, and so rely on that guidance and trust that guidance.
Very well. All right. So thank you, everybody, for your 2 cents. Frank, it's up to you. So you, we will follow your guidance. But I think you have our input, so.
I have not had any official input from the committee, so we are where we are.
Yep.
Okay.
In their committee, by the way, passed the date, first, originally, and then the board voted for that date, and then they turn it around and decide to go with policy at this way. So they went through the whole routine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do we want to do that? And then we don't have to have another meeting, like, so if DHH, do we want to say DHHS, do we want to say CDC? Talk about that right now, and then.
Well, if our,
With the current construct, it's not a board decision, though. It is a
It is.
superintendent decision.
So we don't even have to.
I don't
Right.
think we would need
Yeah.
a meeting at all to change what's happening.
And in
the
the-
school because it's a
right.
decision that's
and the reopening plan is a living document that we
Right.
voted on to be a living document. So I think that should that change, that's where it would be. And
So, but if we had kind of a straw man, the feeling, I think, of the board is that if the CDC and DHHS say, we think it's okay to not be masked in schools, then we're okay with that. I know I am.
with providing the option.
Sure, yeah, it can always be an option. If somebody wants to wear a mask, I'm not going to tell them they can't wear a mask. It's absolutely an
So you
option.
would just take the mandate.
The mandated
Right.
part of it.
Mandate, that's all.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to get, so that at least Frank has a sense of the
Yeah, that
board,
gives
and I
me
think
some
that
guidance.
sounds like easier than having another meeting.
Okay.
I
All right.
think, I'm just sorry, just to rewind, when we first started this whole process back in 2020, we didn't have, it was a big board discussion, because we didn't have the COVID committee, we didn't have direct guidance from the CDC and the Department of Human Services, so we were kind of just figuring things out. So I think on the tail end, well, I'm about to say tail end, but at this point, I think we have enough guidance otherwise to let it stay within school.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. So next item on the agenda, status of tech staffing for the remainder of this year. And I'm going to ask, I didn't task that to you, Frank, but I don't know where we are with that. I think the job has been posted. And the
The job
job,
has been
right.
posted. Currently there are no applicants. My understanding is that the job description is still being worked on, or is that settled? I'm not sure about that.
I think for the, we did vote on it, and there was a little discrepancy, a question about one piece of it in terms of, was it bachelor's and the associates with IT are both with the 1 year of experience, or was it bachelor's, was it, and then an associates with IT and 1 year? I think the 1 year was both. If I
It was
remember
written
correctly.
without a comma, so I thought it was I thought it was to read bachelor's, comma, an associate's degree with a tech focus, comma, or 1 year, and then 1 year, or 1 year experience in the field with a degree. So.
No, the 5 years was a separate one. The
Yeah,
5
yeah.
years was separate,
Right,
right?
but the comma wasn't there, so it read like you needed a bachelor's or an associate's with a degree in, with a focus in technology.
So one of those two plus the 1 year.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Without the comma, it reads like you need to have, your bachelor's needed to be a focus in technology.
I see, okay.
It just needs a comma.
It just needs that comma, okay.
So
So then that's
should we
clear.
can, Janet's right here. I don't know, did you actually do the job description? I don't know. I know you posted it, but can we make that
So I've
change?
seen it, and I think you guys looked at it last meeting, but I wasn't here.
Yeah.
For that meeting, so I just like to look at it again in its final form.
Yeah, we can put that comment in and make sure it's
So that's
reposted.
for the job posting,
Yeah,
that they're talking about, is the
Description is-
posting for the, advertisement.
right.
So that is the way it reads right now in the ad, is a bachelor's, an associate's with a tech focus and 1 year's experience, and then 5 years. experience. I think it's at the bottom. So that's how it reads now.
Wait, say that again.
Bachelor's degree.
It
It doesn't have a comma, because we
Yeah.
made it a bullet because it was too confusing.
Got it.
So bachelor's, associates with a
With
tech
IT.
focus and 1 year experience, plus 1 year experience. And then I believe the last one is 5 years experience. in the field, 4 or 5 years.
So I thought the bachelor's also had that 1 year experience. Am I
So
incorrect?
I
Is
think
that,
that's what the question is right now.
how did we agree
So
to it?
I recall that both either the bachelor's or the associates with a technology focus required the 1 year of experience. I don't know that we decided that the bachelor's needed the technology.
No.
Technology focus.
Right.
So I believe it might be, it can be modified.
Yeah, I mean, it
Then it
didn't
could
change.
read bachelor's degree with at least 1 year of experience in the field.
Or
Or associate's degree with a technology focus and at least 1 year of experience in the field, or 5 years of direct systems management in schools. So there, it's.
So it's clear.
It's this, towards this.
That makes sense?
and are we posting it in the right places?
Yeah, so so I think so. I can go in and modify that, and actually I had a key to,
Where is it posted?
so it's in, Ed Jobs,
Uh-huh.
New Hampshire, and on School Spring. I have it posted in Indeed because I'm having trouble with software, it won't let me upload
Uh-huh.
the ad. So, but I think, so the hard part in this instance
is that a tech job is really something that Indeed might bring people in. Where School Spring might not, because that is education.
Yeah.
So,
How about LinkedIn?
so we don't have a profile. So, I'd like to be able to get that in there, but I also was able to, oh God, my brain's fried. I also was able to connect with a college group that allowed me to post in like 13 different colleges. So when it goes through, so I was hoping to grab grad students or something like that, and for those jobs. But I haven't seen any results from that. So I think what we've seen results from is really School Spring and Ed jobs. And I hate to contradict Frank, but after you left this afternoon, we did get one late applicant.
Oh, there you
So
go.
we do have one at this point.
Good.
So it is.
Excellent.
Good start.
Yay. All right. Thank you. All right.
I'm making a lot of solutions that's helpful document on the. Can I just clarify, with the applications coming in, is the interview process, is it within our school now as it has been in the past, like we just will run the interviews?
I think so.
Positions that are open?
I would think so, right? Having a search committee and doing it the way, I mean,
That we typically have done it?
Abiding by the protocol in place. Which, when you say typical, I mean, I think
Like
there's been
I
some
will,
variability.
I will set up the committee and run the committee and the questions and everything through what we, through me, really, and the tech committee and the people who would help do the hiring. Okay.
that makes sense.
I just noted that Becky said there is a Lyme School link, you should put the LinkedIn.
Can I speak to that?
But maybe it's just, I mean, maybe we just put it up, or can't you do that? I don't know, I'm not.
There is a Lyme School LinkedIn, but like having posted jobs to LinkedIn for another organization that's small, you still have to create an account. You still have to upload the position. It is another point of management. And that is something that I don't know if anyone at the school is willing to step up and do, because it's not something the school has done in the past to launch a LinkedIn search through that. But it is possible. But just because we have a LinkedIn site, like a presence, doesn't mean that we can just boom run a search. It means we have like a baseline, but it doesn't, it may not necessarily mean that it's just throw a switch. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, I hear you. The only thing, it does have a thing, because I went to the link. Again, I don't know, Sarah, I'm not, so it says jobs. And so now it says there's no jobs right now, but it looks like you create a job alert. So it's just a matter of getting it posted. It says create a job alert. It says, I mean, if you click on jobs, when you go to the LinkedIn page, it says home about post jobs. So I don't know if that's a big lift or an easy lift.
Does the Lyme School have even a network on LinkedIn?
I have no idea.
Right now.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that question.
Does Lyme School have a,
The Lyme School, if it doesn't have like a network, and it sounds like there are only 2 people.
so it's not even
Well,
a
it's not
network,
gonna
really?
go- It's not gonna go anywhere.
Right.
Well, no. So sorry. Like you can, no, you can give money to LinkedIn and they will help spread the word. It's not just about, your own network. I have encouraged the board to post these positions on their own LinkedIn, because you just never know who's in your network. You don't know, and it doesn't hurt. I mean, you can see on the Lyme School's LinkedIn page now that I posted on my page and then shared back to the Lyme School LinkedIn page. But that isn't posting a position and doing a LinkedIn search. That's a separate thing. It's not just a Facebook post.
Does Marion know? Do Vince or Phil, does Marion know if we're hiring?
Yes, she knows where it is.
Okay. Yeah, and I can tell people at work and people at because they're gonna be like, there's a very small community of people in the Upper Valley that do IT work. You might as well.
Spread
let
the
them
word.
know, like word of mouth. Not,
I should be clear, we can post a job for free, but if you want like a massive, LinkedIn is there to make money. So,
I know, I guess I just didn't know if even if we did it that way, just so it's listed, as people are looking, I don't know.
All
Just a
right.
thought.
Well, so I encourage everybody to post it onto their LinkedIn site and then link it to whoever you are able to. Maybe your friends will see it. All right. First reading of the policies. I will go through DA, DAF, and IMG. There's no vote required on this. This is just an acknowledgement of the policies. DA is fiscal management. This is one of the fiscal management policies that was identified by our audit as out of date. And so the recommended changes are basically switching it to NHSBA language, like, as I've said previously, that has been vetted by an attorney. And this will bring us into compliance on that one. The next policy, DAF, is a new policy. This is for administration of federal grant funds. This is a required policy of which we only had two parts. We had DAF 2 and DAF 9, and I'm not sure why there were only those two in the past. But it was felt on the policy committee that merging all of the DAFs into just one big policy where you know exactly where to go to would be easier for those who are managing the federal grant funds. And we need the whole package. So it's also, again, an HSBA language. Policy EBBG, renaming it to IMG. I'm not sure how, there was an old naming system and this one fell through the cracks. This is referring to animals in schools. This was a specific policy requested to be reviewed by administration. It is an optional policy by NHSBA, and the policy committee recommends a change to include the language as proposed by NHSBA. You will see that there was in the documents folder a request for us to reconsider some of the wording in IMG. This was an email sent in by Amanda Perry. It was specifically asking for it to be more of a case-by-case basis. Also, if I remember correctly, it was switching from eliminating comfort animals or the specific designation of service animals. So if there's any questions or further discussion about that, if you guys think we need to adjust it, we can go back to the policy committee can go back and reword it or relook at it. It's IMG, the animals in schools.
Right, 'cause right now it only references the student one.
The current, well, so the old one, EBBG, was really only about, I'm sorry about that. I don't know how to turn off notifications of emails. So EBBG referred only to, say that again? EBB, I don't know, okay. Oh, it is G. I probably put it in wrong. Sorry about that. So that really spoke to only the, yes, instructional animals brought into school for instructional purposes. It didn't address any other animals. The switching it to IMG and the language of NHSBA did include a lot more broad animal types. I mean, there's even a comment about horses, so like miniature horses. So, but it also does reference pets. And so that's the idea that it's not just limited to the instructional spaces. It's also broadening it to the school grounds as a whole.
I see.
Does that make sense? So it's all of school grounds, basically.
Well, but Yola, being on the policy committee too, we've been engaged in a long process of reviewing what is recommended by the New Hampshire School Board Association, which is of course reviewed by attorneys. And we are currently considering a policy or recommending that we replace the older policy, which I'm not sure at this point how old it was, with their recommended language. And the purpose of the animals in school policy, my understanding was that it referred specifically about instructional purposes, animals for instructional purposes. Their concerns were, teachers that might accidentally leave a turtle over the summer holiday in the school and then it's dead and that's not good. And the other policy, the service animal policy, seems to fall under the concern or the issue that's being raised by a staff member. And I don't understand why we should modify animals in school policy when it's a different type of policy, when the purpose of the animal has been stated to be, it is a comfort animal. It is an animal that has a job. That is the job it's performing. How is it instructional? And so if we adopt the service animal policy, why doesn't it fall under that, I guess? And so I don't know whether that policy is coming up at the same time, but we have a
We're talking about that one next.
Well, I'm just pointing
Yeah.
out that maybe again, I know I'm on the policy committee, so I'm deeper in the weeds on this one, but it seems like this animal might fall. I don't understand why we're talking about it under this policy. That's all I'm saying.
IMGA, isn't it?
Yeah, but and that's what we're talking about next, but the issue that I have with this policy is that it says unauthorized animals are not allowed in school buildings or on school grounds, but how do you determine if an animal is authorized or not? Like, that's not.
And is that people with their dogs on the playground too?
Yep.
Correct.
So.
I mean, and we can
Like
set
it-
those rules. Yeah, I mean, where is it? I can't
I
even
just feel
find
like
it.
we need to look at this one again at minimum, because I'm not sure what would render an animal authorized or not.
So earlier on, I believe that it talks, I didn't remember all of the details. I think it's the responsibility of the authorization is, the authorization is run through the superintendent. So this places the responsibility on the superintendent to develop procedures stating which animals are unauthorized, as well as proper handling and caging procedures of animals in buildings or on school grounds. So potentially, so this is the policy, and then a procedure can be written
It's up
to
to the
say,
superintendent to say, these are the animals that we're authorizing and these are the animals. Or I guess
yeah,
you can't
like
make
dogs
a
on school
complete
grounds
list,
have to
but-
be leashed or something like that. Something to that extent, outdoors, indoors, whatever. But again, this was, yeah, so this
Yeah.
is based on NHSBA wording.
But that's something that we'll need to have stated. I can say I've brought my dog onto school grounds before. I have wondered if it's I have actually had the thought the first time I brought her, I was like, hey, I'm not supposed to be doing this, but no one complained. So, but I always have her on a leash and keep her really close.
Right.
So it's not like she's running around crazy.
What's the town regulation in terms of dogs? or
They have to be on a
leashes?
Leash.
And you have to pick up your poop.
Well, or by voice command.
I don't know about the
I
voice
don't
command.
know.
Yeah,
That might
Is
be.
it voice command too?
Yeah, that might be true. My dog's
It's
always on a
definitely
leash
true,
because
yeah.
we've not graduated. Hazing.
Before I knew there was a policy, I knew that dogs are not allowed on campus.
Yeah.
Here, I was told.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I can speak to my daughter's class. I know I've had to board my dog when certain kids come over because they're deathly afraid. Right? And, I don't want to stress kids out.
So is the request for the policy committee to take this back and work on it some more before we bring it to a second read?
Well, I think if I can, there's two different policies. One is about animals in the school, and then IMGA is around service animals, and you reference comfort animals.
which is
Is
service.
actually
You're
an
correct.
IMGA,
You are
and I
correct.
think I mean, yes, I think we also need to have, policies around decisions and what's authorized, what's not, all that stuff, but I think you have to also break it out between, and I think that
Well, but I
there's a
think,
question around, I guess, right here in IMGA, it says that a comfort animal doesn't meet the definition of a service animal, and I guess, is our policy just on service animals, or does it go more broadly?
but I think the two
So-
policies are distinct in the sense that IMG is dealing with animals in the school for instructional purposes.
Right.
And
But just in
perhaps
general.
on school grounds, right? And the superintendent is the person who's got the authority, if we pass this policy, that person has the authority to say, yes, you can have animal X, Y, and Z, or you have to come to me and talk, but presumably most of that would be about instruction. IMGA is more about like having a service animal because you have a person with a disability, right?
Right, but then it does reference comfort animals where they don't have a disability, and I guess it gets to,
They're not entitled to protection under this policy.
right, and that it's subject to other applicable policies or administrative regulations of the district or school. So we're mum on that right now.
So can I bring the attention back to IMG, because that's the first one that we're doing.
Okay.
Is the request from the board to bring it back to policy committee to readdress the animals in school? Or are we,
Well, but I think they're.
just that one, not the
interrelated.
service?
They need to be permanent.
They're interrelated though, because the unauthorized animals on school grounds could be a comfort dog, or it could be a service, I mean, like.
Well, so I have a question though. Are both of these policies, are they reflecting up-to-date recommendations from the NHSBA?
Yes,
Correct.
Both of
Yes.
them recommended or?
they are both recommended,
Neither of them are required.
correct.
Both of them are recommended. So they should be, I mean, if we are going by NHSBA guidance, they should be in alignment with each other and not necessarily conflicting.
Right.
Or overlap.
Right.
I mean, the way I read it, the comfort animal, if you have an animal and you say, my animal is here to give me comfort, but it's not a service animal and I don't have a disability, then IMGA does not apply. What applies is IMG, right? Which would be are subject to such other applicable policies or administrative regulations of the district or the school, because now you just have a animal in the school.
That's IMGA, right?
The IMGA would then not, because it's a comfort animal and it's
So it's
not a
not an
service
IGN.
animal. Is what number 3 is saying, IMG now is the policy that you need to follow.
Are you sure? Where does it say IMG?
Well, it just says other applicable policies. That would be the other applicable
Well,
policy,
then
because it
I
deals with
see.
animals
Then
on
wait,
school
well, then
grounds.
IMG doesn't give enough information on it.
Well, I mean, that's the problem, is that it would be up to the superintendent, so.
Right, but
Can
as
we
a
have you-
superintendent, the superintendent needs some guidance on these things. I mean, because I can say that my cat is my comfort. And I find working at the SAU office very stressful. So the cat will give me comfort. I don't think I should be able to bring my cats to the SAU office because Janet may be allergic, or I may have a client who comes in who is allergic. However, if my psychiatrist or my therapist says, you know what, Frank, why don't you take that cat to work with you for a while, because you're kind of getting to the edge and you need to be good. They have some, I think then as the superintendent, they've got some basis on which to make a rational decision, because some standard has been set that can be enforced. Otherwise, it becomes too arbitrary. I like this person, so yeah, you can bring your, you know what, that person, they kind of ticked me off the other day. They were rude to me in the grocery store. I think so you don't want to get into that. And
But
so-
isn't another issue, what if like 6 or 7 people suddenly want to start bringing their
Well, but that's
friendly
why,
dogs in?
Right.
that's when you get authorization from the superintendent, though.
Well, right, but we
Right.
need, right, so he needs the guidance. I mean, I agree with what Corinne said. What makes sense to me is that if there is an emergency in the school, every adult has a responsibility. And no adult's responsibility should be dealing with their dog or cat or turtle that needs to be shuttled out of the school and or is startled because it's never heard loud sirens or sprinklers going off. These things happen. So you want my opinion? Like, you want me to be very clear, I'm a no.
Yeah, so you need to
On
write
animals
the
in the
policy
school.
you need to write a very tight policy, so that, because if you are going to expect, your administrators, because you're going to have a new principal and a new superintendent, and they're going to be expected to enforce these things, and they need to have pretty good guidance about where you stand. And I think safety is an issue. I don't particularly like dogs on the playground or any time when there are kids out there. After 4 o'clock and after the sports teams are done and all of that, people want to come run their dogs and they're under control, whether verbally or whatever.
Mhm.
Shock collars. My dogs wear shock collars and they work very well. But, then that's okay. And if you clean up, but the problem is 70% of the people will pick up after their dogs and 30% don't. And then the next day when the PE class goes out there, you've got a problem. So, I mean, it's really kind of hard. So,
Well, I mean, these policies are clear. I mean, and so if we're being asked to revisit it, I think essentially what's happening is that there are staff that don't like the answer given to them by their last superintendent. And so this is an appeal to the board to say, we really didn't like that decision your last superintendent made. We want you to write this policy so we can have dogs. And that's what's before us. So I think that my advice would be to, like, we as the board have also the big picture too. So if they want us to take this back to policy committee, where the people that read these policies, would like to discuss it again, I would want to have our superintendent to be part of that conversation, because if we're going to craft any adjustment to a recommended NHSBA policy, which has been vetted by lawyers and has been adopted by other school districts, we need to have a really good advice from someone who is probably involved or most likely involved in making the call, because we aren't making the call. We're not in the school every day saying yes or no. I mean, it's got to be the school that can do this.
Yeah, I just feel like with this particular policy, like the problem is we've now been talking about this for how many months? And it's come up many times and it just won't go away. And I'm looking at this and I'm seeing a policy that makes sense to me, but like the next person's going to be like, oh, but like I'll interpret this word to do this, or right. And I just want it almost to say no domestic pets on school grounds, period.
All right, so if you want us to go, it's not an official vote. If you want us to take it back to policy committee, raise your hand.
Well, but that would be with some of the guidance, right? Like, and if Jen is giving that guidance, right? Because you're gonna put something in that says for the avoidance of any doubt, pets are not allowed on school property. Like, how do we somewhat agree with that, right? Because otherwise you're gonna draft some lines, it comes back, and then we have to send it back again, and then we have to send it back again, right? And then, by the way, I agree with Jen on this issue, especially what I find especially disturbing is if an answer was given on this issue and it was not liked, that it then subsequently has to come to school board. That's not how that operates, right? That's not why we hire an employee to operate the school for us. That employee gives an answer, and it is not like, if you don't like that answer, then the school board has to weigh in. I'm sorry, I don't have that kind of time.
Right.
So I agree with Jen. I think this behavior needs to stop. That's a separate issue. But I agree with Jen that for the avoidance of any doubt, pets are not permitted on school property. For all the reasons given.
I would ask that, Frank, you as the interim superintendent, do you feel like this policy, I don't know if you've given that chance to, would require some sense of clarification if an instance came up, such as what has been worked through in the school recently? I mean, is this clear enough to you
I,
to make a decision?
yeah, I don't think the policy allows the current situation to exist.
The proposed
The-
policy, IMG, you think does not allow the current situation to
Uh,
exist?
Not as I read it.
I'm just wondering,
I
if
mean-
there's any ambiguity, then I would say,
I-
yes, let the policy committee come back.
The ambiguity that I see is in the way the comfort animal is treated in the other policy that's
Right,
associated with
that's
this.
correct. That was my
And I think
question.
that ought to be cleared up a little bit, because that's
Okay.
kind of fuzzy. But, I mean, this allows for an animal to be brought in for a specific educational purpose. The other policy allows for a service animal, if someone's blind or disabled or whatever, and need that animal. It allows for that. Those animals are highly trained. And it allows for that, but other, you know, yeah, so.
I guess I'm asking, from your perception, or is this one that's on the table right now ambiguous? And do you
I
think it
haven't-
needs to be reworked, or
Yeah,
should we
I-
just use it?
Yeah, I
And
haven't
just
had a
be
chance to
able
really read it.
Yeah,
Really,
okay,
really
fair
close, so.
I mean, I hate to say this. I mean, I know that we've been going around in circles, but we have Mr. Parati, we have Ms. Foxall. We can have a policy committee meeting and lay out both of these policies and have a hard conversation about what is appropriate, what would work, what would not work.
Yeah. So, go ahead,
Will
Elizabeth.
this be included
Yes.
when the policy touches IEP and 504? Just, can I sit in on that? Because I actually just went to a 504 training around service animals. And I just have a concern here because therapy animals are excluded. And so we have a psychologist that has a therapy dog, it's licensed, so I think that takes care of the safety issues, and that there's a person that's contracting with the district that's supervises it, and that's not in here because the only reference to IEP of 504 is for service animals for the student. So I would just suggest that not for any other reason except to make sure that the policy is what we want it to be, that it go back to the policy committee.
Right, I think we gotta put a little more clarity. to
We
those
do
pieces.
have a current policy in place that is
Would allow for the therapy dog.
IMGA.
the
service
one that's on the.
Our current policy doesn't cover it as far as we read it. I mean, we. thought
IMGA. Are you talking about the service one, or are you talking about the service animals or the other one? The
I don't
service
know. I'll
animals
have
is,
to look, I remember looking and thinking that there was a current policy.
so the service animals policy, we are not recommending any changes. That is just a review. So that's why it's a vote.
IMGA.
I'm sorry, IMGA, the service animals policy, right? IMG is the one that's rewording
I
completely.
know, but I think there's a question around IMGA.
But the question is therapy animals. Where does it fall? Which one?
It's kind of ambiguous as.
I think they're two different things, so I
No,
think
and we
about.
need to have more definition, so it's super clear.
I mean, fundamentally, I think a therapy animal is a service animal. If we could take advisement from anybody that has dealt with therapy animals and then work it into a service policy, I'm not opposed to that. Like, people need pets sometimes. I get it. Like, I hear that. We've definitely allowed it in the past. It has happened at the school. You know, students have brought cats in. You know, it wasn't instructional. It was for just getting through the day. So we've done it in the past. We just had no policy on it.
There is actually a reference to the, to what you're talking about, Mickey. That service animals, so it says emotional therapy or comfort dogs are generally not service animals for the purpose of this policy, except as may be provided under paragraph B2 below. And so that's where it talks specifically about IEPs and 504s. And that was up to the team to determine whether the animal is necessary for the student to receive a free and appropriate education. So that's
Student's
covered.
Therapy dog. but
Correct.
not if
What
it's the
about
psychologist's
staff
therapy
or-
dog.
I think we need to look at it further. Maybe it's that if we go back one more round. you'll,
Okay, so we'll take it back. We'll take both of them back then. All right, so we'll table IMGA and second reading of the other ones.
But in the meantime, the superintendent has the decision over animals in school. We have
Correct.
clarified that. It is not a school board decision. It is the superintendent decision right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say like, for the sense of, just to give, to give what I think the psychologist with the therapy dog makes sense, because it's like, the therapy dog necessarily isn't trained as a service animal. You have one adult who has no responsibility in the school if there's an emergency, right? So their only responsibility is to get out of the building with their own dog. It makes, that's.
Maybe somebody different next time.
Mhm.
So somebody else may have a therapy dog for a different reason.
Right, so,
But
but
therapy dogs have a license.
Yeah, they
So
do have a
it's
license. It's a
certification,
different
so
license.
that's different.
That's the whole,
than-
yeah, that's a service animal
Service
then.
dog. So we just need to go back and clear.
It's just the
We just
wording
need
of
to
it.
read. We just
All
need
right.
to clear it.
So we're moving on. Second reads. Policy AC is the non-discrimination one. This is a required policy that addresses Title IX discrimination upon adoption. We will then also be able to get to repeal GAEA, which is at the end, and it will line up with current New Hampshire and federal law. Processes that will support this will be presented in the future. That's ACR. The next one is BCB, Board Member Conflict of Interest. This is recommended. No change since the first read. It addresses the fact that we are public servants and we must reveal all our possible conflicts, and also addresses nepotism so that we can be transparent. BDE is School Board Committees. There's no changes since the last reading. This is a recommended policy. It outlines the board-based committees and outlines the possible school-based committees and their roles. And the last one is BHC, which I always mess up. It's not BCH, it's BHC. School Board Communications with Staff. This was brought back to the Policy Committee after the first read for discussion of the last paragraph. It's noted not to be in the NHSBA version at all. And so the committee agreed that while the original sentiment behind it is preferable, removing the entire paragraph can be more clear, as board members should only be meeting with the knowledge of or at the direction of the superintendent anyhow. Does that make sense? So do I have a motion to move all of those?
I will second them.
Oh, Sarah's first. Sorry, Jen. Any further questions or discussion? Oh my God, awesome. All in favor of moving of all of these policies?
Aye.
Yay, finally.
I didn't vote yet.
And I'm including the GAEA as repealing that. Okay. Now, the last piece is moving on to minutes, which we have an army of them.
Oh my gosh.
Fun stuff. So moving forward, no matter how short our next meeting is, we are going to approve the minutes from the prior meeting.
No matter how long.
No matter how long or short, it's going to be the first item on the agenda because this took me like 5 hours at least to compile. So not doing that again. So I will ask somebody to move them as a slate and we can go through them individually if we need to.
I'll move them as a slate.
Thank you.
Sarah moves them as a slate.
Second them as a slate.
Jen seconds.
All right.
All right,
Let's
going
do it.
through policy by policy, minutes.
I didn't see 12:7 in there.
Okay, so 12:7, I made a mistake and we already approved those. So that's 2 less. December 4th, because I had to do this agenda, and so I just wanted to get it out there. December 14th, public minutes. Is there any adjustments, any questions, concerns? No. Okay. December 14th, non-public. Any questions, concerns? And I put everything that I put in red is the changes that I'm suggesting. Okay, January 7th, public minutes. Yeah. Oh, you can't read that fast. You're all set? Anyone else? Everyone okay? All right. I'm gonna just pull up my, okay. And January 7th, not, oh no, there was no January 11th public minutes. I didn't have anything here. January 11th, non-public minutes. Moving right along, January 18th, public minutes. This was the fast one. That was the 2-minute meeting. January 25th, public minutes. Nothing? So good news, January 25th, non-public, we actually already approved and sealed, so we can skip that one. January. Oh, yep, 25.
Is it okay to add those little tweaks? I don't know if you can see them online. I changed, I added assistant as is consistent with other.
I saw those.
And spelling.
Yeah. Yes, I'll adjust those. That's perfect. Okay. January 28th, non-public minutes. Or no, public, sorry, public first and then non-public second. Anybody? You guys, awesome. February 3. This was a Thursday night meeting. February 3rd, public minutes. This is where I added a whole
This one I
section.
haven't read yet.
This was one that, Roger, you said you had difficulty seeing and hearing because it was off the Zoom recording. They are difficult, yeah. Tell me when.
The only thing I want to do is pull that one out, so I'm gonna vote against that.
Okay, February 3rd?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, the non-public or public for February 3rd?
Public.
Okay, so let's just get back to that one later.
All right, so we'll pull that, set that aside. Okay, February 3rd, non-public. Excellent. February 7th.
I mean, the only thing I would say about these, and we can get back to it, is that the end needs to be put into the public minutes. Right, like where we re-entered and then
Okay.
approved the request, that actually needs to, that needs to go back.
Into the
Yeah,
February.
Yeah, we can do it
Okay.
when we get back to, we'll be back to February 3rd afterwards anyway.
Oh, I put that in. I think that's in there.
Oh, so then we just need to.
It is
delete
actually, it's
noted.
already in the,
Noted, it just didn't.
Perfect, so I'm just gonna delete it if you've recorded it. Right, it's all on 2-3, yes, it's all there. So
The timings-
I'm just gonna get rid of it.
okay. The times are incorrect.
Was there 2-7 non-pub?
Two,
Yeah.
So, in the February 3rd, if you look at the motion about involving the search committee for the superintendent.
do you guys want to pull aside that one?
Which one's that?
The 2-3 public?
They are pulled already.
They're pulled, so we'll do that one separately. At least we can vote on the rest of them. Okay. So 2-3 non-public, we'll make sure that that bottom stuff is into public. And 2-7,
My name is listed in the public, and that's not there.
yes, thank you.
Oh, shoot, I don't know. And I think that we'll have to pull that out so that I can abstain from that.
Okay, okay, so we'll pull those separately. So all in favor of approving all of the minutes we talked about, except for February 3 public, and February 7th, public and non-public. Say aye.
Aye.
Oh, gosh, can we just make one little correct? And I'm sorry, I put this up, not this January 18th, in the title it says non-public,
February 18th.
but public.
Oh, yes,
Changed it, no,
thank you. Yep,
I'm sorry.
I'll fix that. All right. Excellent. So all of those moved and done. So
So the 7th is everyone.
We can
agreed to-
vote,
we
but
can
they-
vote.
everyone agreed to the 7th? All right, so all in favor of February 7th as written minus Hayes's name? Say aye. February 7th, public and non-public.
She's gonna-
And Hayes is abstaining.
I wasn't there neither, right? So I should abstain as well.
Last week?
Yeah, I wasn't,
Oh, that's right, he wasn't
Dallas.
there.
You
They
you
both
weren't.
were.
That's right.
yeah, I wasn't able to call in.
Okay. And
Well,
you
yeah,
were
your
not on
name's
here.
not here, it's just Hayes' name.
It's just
That got
Hayes
in,
abstaining.
okay. So two people abstaining. All right, motion passes. So now let's go back to 2-3.
Just a point of how you do the consent to actually save time. and
Yes.
ask Which ones you want to pull out? You wouldn't have to go through 120. You would just pull out those two. And then you would start from that point.
Okay.
That was the consent to save the time.
Okay, thank you. 2-3. Sorry.
I can just bring up my point. I don't know.
Go ahead.
Did you want to make a modification to it?
I just want to vote against it.
Okay. The search committee for the superintendent. It is near the bottom, it's right above 4B. Can we just review? It seems like there are too many people listed there.
I can't hear Hayes.
So in the paragraph, the motion that was above 4B, which is the motion made and seconded to establish a search committee to fill the position of Lyme School District Superintendent.
Acting superintendent, or we could say the interim, for what it's worth. Interim principal, LA rep, 2 board members.
So what is the current, I know that the director of facilities could not be a part of it. So it was either, as I recall, director of facilities or another board member, correct?
Correct.
So, and then I don't think we had a parent on this committee.
No, we did not. There's a community member, but there's no parent. Parent was on the principal.
And whether it's worth it or not, change of content paragraph above nurse or counselor, because we have the conversation later about nurse, counselor, or other.
School,
Yeah.
school representative.
Right. So it might be worth, because the person who is filling that,
Is an ed assistant, yeah.
right, and so I think that to align with that, because we were in agreement with that. This should
That's a
somehow
possibility.
reflect that was acceptable.
Okay, yep,
And you'll make those.
I can make those modifications. Yep. Anything else?
By the way, I did tell it, going into this, that those compositions, I wasn't sure about.
Yes, you did. And I didn't fix it. All right, so all in favor of it as with the amendments that Hayes brought up to our attention?
It was hard to hear them, but I think Hayes said that it was director of facilities is if available, if not, a second board member and a staff member, not a parent. Is that correct?
Staff member, not a parent, and then also in the superintendent, the principal search committee, it says nurse or counselor. And so we'll adjust it to nurse or counselor, or other school
School
representative.
staff, right,
Staff.
okay. Got it.
We have the tech committee statement. Can we append that to the minutes, the actual statement for
Sure.
posterity? Thanks.
perfect. All right, all in favor of the minutes as amended? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
All opposed? Glenn shall oppose. All right. With that, we actually went through everything, almost. Now we just have our little non-public, which hopefully will be fast, because it's 9:30. So, so public, thank you for joining us. Yes.
It can't be too late because Sarah's in Bermuda, so she can't have a telephone class around me when I get home, which is like, when I stay
All right.
up too late, I have to have alcohol.
So, so to the public, I'm going to say good night. We are going to stop our recording as well, because I actually know how to do that. And stop recording.